Hey up! Right, part 5 of the Triumph Bonneville Bobber Black build, courtesy of Motorn Customs. I've assembled a playlist, top right hand corner information button, of all the episodes so far, and so far we've fitted the Pico front micro indicators, the Pico multi indicators which you see at the back here now, which is a combined tail light indicator and brake light, and the Rialto rear mudguard. Ever since I made the modifications to the rear end of the bobber, people have been asking me what I'm going to do about the rear number plate, because obviously as it stands at the moment there's nowhere to put it. Motorn Customs are currently working on a sort of a floating rear number plate mounting system that allows the number plate to be positioned directly behind the rear wheel as you would normally see on any motorcycle, but that's not ready yet. So what I thought I would do in today's episode is fit their new Sidekick side mounting system for the number plate. Now this kind of system seems quite popular. I've seen a few custom bobbers just lately and they all seem to have them mounted that way. The Sidekick mounts on the left hand side only, and it's actually attached to the bike via the rear axle. So you do need to get the back wheel off the ground slightly in order to remove the axle. My preference is to use a paddock stand. Now you can use a scissor jack, but I think any bobber really needs to have some bobbins fitted for the use of a paddock stand. I've got the Motorn Franken bobbins fitted on mine. Right, of course, the big fly in the ointment here in the UK is the size of our registration plates. They're enormous. I'm not sure whether it's true, but I think this harks back to the old days when motor vehicles first sort of were put on the roads. In the winter we only get about 8 hours of daylight, and the idea was that a large number plate would be more visible in low light. Technology has moved on a long way then, both with street lighting, vehicle lighting, and of course reflective number plates, but they've stayed the same size. I've just attached my original number plate using some double-sided tape for the moment, just for demonstration purposes. And I'll just put a little commercial break in here now so all the Australians, New Zealanders and Americans can take the piss out of the size of our registration plates. In the comments section, let them get it out of the system now. Now, the back wheel on the bobber is incredibly heavy. When you take the axle out, what you don't want it to do is drop to the floor, especially if you're on your own, because it's the devil's job getting everything lined up, especially with that rear brake caliper, which has a habit of falling out. So my advice is to just put some shims in the way of some bits of wood. I use some old decking planks, so the wheel can't sort of drop any more than about 1/4 of an inch. That just makes this entire operation so much easier. Now obviously, as usual, I will leave links to all the parts used in this video. In fact, I've had a word with Sam to see if he can create a dedicated page to this build that will allow you to just select the parts that are used in this series. So hopefully I can just direct you to that in future episodes. And I'll show you those parts in a moment. Now, as you see here, I've put a larger plank at the top. This just allows a little bit of leverage if you're struggling to get the wheel back up into place in order to align your axle again. It'll just allow you to lever the rear wheel up slightly. It makes it a lot easier than trying to lift it. Now, this sort of comes in kit form, which can be ordered in 2 different parts. First of all, we've got the axle plate bracket. Now this is a heavy duty piece of kit made from forged stainless steel, and there's 2 reasons that it's heavy duty. One is obviously this is part of your axle assembly, so it needs to be extremely strong. The other issue of course is if you drop the bike on the left hand side, most of these side mount registration plate brackets will just fold up and will need to be replaced. This thing is built like a crash bar on steroids. The chances of damaging it are very slim if you drop the bike, and the only bits you'll probably need to replace are the actual plate holder and the number plate. Next up, and I haven't mentioned this so far, is the Motorn Customs Pillbox LED number plate illuminator. Tiny and inobtrusive, but it does pack quite a punch in the lighting department for illuminating your rear number plate. And this will be utilising the Motorn Customs plug-and-play wiring loom that we incorporated into the bike back with the Pico multi-installation, which has an accessory spare which is perfect for this application. And finally, we've got one of Motorn Customs plate mounting kits, which just screws directly onto the actual axle bracket. And as I say, in the event of a tumble, it's likely that is the only part that you're going to need to replace. And as I said, I'll leave links to all these in the video description down below. Oh, and don't forget, viewers of this channel get a 12% discount at Motorn Customs via a discount code, which I will also leave in the video description. Right, so once you've got the back end of the bike safely up off the ground and your back wheel shimmed up, it's time to unfasten the actual axle itself. Remove the nut and any spacers, and then you can carefully withdraw the axle. It might need a little bit of persuasion with a hammer or something like that. I couldn't find my rubber mallet. I think it was used for something in the house. I don't know where it is now, so I had to use one of my old panel beating hammers. If you do use something like that, just be careful not to damage the actual axle head itself. At the end of the day, it should only need a very gentle tap to get it moving, so you can grab it from the other side and withdraw it. You might have to lift the rear wheel very slightly just to take the pressure off the axle to make it easier to remove. As I say, there is an awful lot of weight on this axle. Now, if you've shimmed the back wheel up adequately, you shouldn't have any problem with that rear caliper. The problem with this caliper is it sort of just slots into a locator, so if you move the wheel too much, the caliper will fall out, and then it's like juggling jelly trying to get the axle lined up, the wheel lined up, whilst keeping the actual caliper in place when you reinsert everything, which is a nightmare you really don't want to experience. Now, the Motorn Sidekick axle bracket actually replaces the adjuster block that comes as standard with that bike, so you won't need that. Just put it somewhere safe in case you need to make any changes in the future. And all you do is orient it as you see me doing here, and then carefully reinsert your axle. Now, to get your axle through cleanly, you might need to just lift the wheel up very slightly, but as I say, providing you've shimmed it up, you'll find it very easy. And once the Sidekick is fixed in place, it actually becomes part of the axle assembly, so you know, it's really strong. It's not going to move or get bent around anywhere. It stays exactly where you put it. Now, once you've got this in place, it's time to readjust your back wheel to make sure that your chain tension is right and that your wheel is aligned properly. You can then go ahead and retighten your rear axle nut. And that's the difficult bit out of the way, really. Once you've done that, it's just time to fit the actual mounting plate and your pillbox number plate illuminator. Now, the plate mounting kit that I'm using is the one that doesn't have a facility for a tail light, because obviously we've got the Pico multis fitted. With your kit, you'll find some stainless steel fasteners, and you'll find two additional brackets. One's a sort of a wiggly one and the other one is a short straight one. In this application, you don't need the short straight one. We use the wiggly one, and the wiggly one allows you to mount the pillbox number plate illuminator. Also in this kit, you will find a small spacer, so if your number plate is quite thick, you can use this spacer to elevate the pillbox slightly so that it's not sort of illuminating the edge of your plate rather than the face of your plate. Now, the configuration that you've chosen, obviously the size of your plate as well, is going to make a difference to how you actually locate this onto the Sidekick bracket. But it should roughly look the same as the way that I've oriented it here. Screw two of the supplied fasteners in to hold it all in place onto the Sidekick, and then tighten them up so they look like this. If you're fitting the pillbox illuminator, first of all remove the nut and the spring washer from the back. and decide whether or not you're going to need to fit that spacer. Now, I actually did fit it, but I fitted it on the back to keep it where I know where it is, because I'm probably going to have to make a modification when I replace the plate in the future. And once you've removed those and decided whether or not to put the spacer on, you can thread the cable through the hole on that wiggly bracket, and then replace the spring washer and the nut and tighten it up. It is a bit of a fiddly, time-consuming job. Just take your time and have a bit of patience. Obviously, make sure that the LED emitters on the pillbox are pointing in the right direction before tightening it up. And then you can route your cable and connect it up to the accessory spare on your Moton plug-and-play kit. Check that your pillbox is working correctly. Just worth mentioning that this will remain on whilever your ignition is switched on. But these are low draw, high intensity LED emitters, so it's not going to pull much from your battery while you're at a standstill before you start the engine up. Now, you know, as I'm filming this series, it's likely that I'm going to have to pull some of this wiring out and then refit it as I go along. So for the moment, I've not tidied it up and made it all safe. That's something that I will cover in an episode towards the end of the series. Or at least when I get to a stage where I know I'm not going to have to mess around with it anymore and I can go ahead and sort of sort it all out. I know that people are going to have different opinions as to how they want to route this wire. I chose to do it on the sort of inside of the top tube on the rear suspension cage and held them in place with a handful of small cable ties. But you can do it whichever way you like. And that, as they say, is all there is to it. Once again, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this and my other videos, and in doing so helping to support this channel. I really appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. That way, hopefully, YouTube will let you know whenever I upload the next episode in this series. If you would like to support this channel in other ways, you can sign up to my Patreon page, or you can use the super thanks button down below. Either way, thanks for watching. I am going to be back on Friday, so until then, please ride safely, and I'll see you soon.